Right. Hi. Hello. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Oh. Okay. So I've started the chapter 10 rewrite now. So we're done with chapter 9, including the additional thing I added, which is about a page and a half. Let's see. I got to go back to where we were. So what page does chapter 9 end on now? 134. And how far back? Let's see. 126 it looks like? Yeah, 126. Yeah, I got a lot of writing done. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to start from here. I'll backtrack a little bit, and then we'll go from that. But yeah, welcome everybody. Welcome, welcome. I've just been basically crunching away and everything and grinding the story and stuff, so yeah. Okay. Right. Speaking of good terrible news, as they say. Good things come in threes, so here is my third werewolf joke. Oh boy. What do you call a furless werewolf with a skin problem who's also in charge of a group of people? The mangager. The mangager. Oh my god. Yeah, that's pretty horrible. That is pretty horrible. It's horrible to say it, too. Mangager. It's pretty horrible. All right. All right. Gotta tamp down the throat demons. Hold on. Right. Calling yourself weak seems absurd. I saw you rip a car door off and send it through a window with enough force to cleave that black wolf's face. Jack spoke up and huffed as he was wrestling with the annoying compulsion within him, all while it was suppressing his feelings. He's just comparing it to the other casts. It's our only real way to quantify the differences between them in regards to strength itself. Each caste has so many gifts and boons they can utilize that the throat demons are coming in. Each caste has so many gifts and boons they can utilize that it's hard to judge holistically. So better to default to the physicality of each caste instead. Oh, indeed. And if I ye both ask, a spear can ne'er work hard. Bleh. A spear can ne'er work to be stronger than a wrecker. Wrecker have an overwhelming ability to build muscle and raw power. It be the same for me cast. Only the older skull can try to compete in a contest of strength, and even then they need to rely on techniques to overcome the difference. Jennifer gave a soft hum as her next question was already preemptively answered, while Jack gave a low growl and gritted his teeth. I want to ask a question, and I want an honest answer. Michael turned to look past Jennifer and nodded to the wolf-like thing, which made him take a deep breath to collect himself. Why? Let's try this again. Why would anyone ever use this curse or the contract? I told you, laddie. Touch me? No, I'm not talking about the situation I find myself in. This is slavery, make no mistake about it. The words made the ranger frown, but he simply nodded his head. Aye, tat it be. A lingering curse from a time long before this world ever existed. It'd be a terrible temptation to make a puppet that can nae resist anything ye desire, and will seek to defend ye. Some hater, tribes if ye prefer, use it as punishment, especially if we were over into clanholds. To then make them enact penance through struggle and strife. Jack grumbled and glared at Michael, who raised his hands up and turned to keep walking. He isn't kidding. The third talent is giving you the honest answer. It's not an excuse or anything, but you asked why it would be used. Vidic's voice was calm, but it was clear there was a grim stoicism in his speaking tone. Aye, but it may be all about that. The curse can be gifted unto one seeking it. Some are afflicted from poorly worded compact with Ander or Mikander. Some we use it to save their life. Bullshit. Nay, I speak to you true. The most recent one for me ater was a woman, about 20 years back. Her name be Cynthia Mattel, and she was a fine ranger, one of the best we ever had. She threw herself into her work and cared so deeply for the forests and all those within, be they animal, person, or even the rare monster cropping up. Oh, nay, get me wrong, I don't speak a word of ill o' her, but she helped us redefine our understanding of the unnatural beasties that could spring forth and how best to corral them or put them down humanely. Jack continued his scowl, but his ears gave away that he was intently listening. Then she had an accident. Her truck had a blowout on a bad strip of road leading deep into the woods. It rolled and trashed and eventually crumpled in against a rock formation down a steep depression. We found her quick like. Wolf ears are good at hearing things, and it were a violent crash to say the least. Name after she weren't doing much speed, for once the tires blew and she skidded off the side of the road and into the loose leaf litter, it was momentum itself that carried her down that drop. Well, a choice was to be made, and she had done such incredible service for nature itself and the natural order that she was given a chance. She was asked if she wished to live, to carry on her good work, though in secret, or if she were ready to rest and join the other side of the mirror. She chose, and thus she was given to bite, as it were. At last the false sulphur simply threw up his hands and sighed. One not of relief, but frustration, as he glared at Michael with a clear annoyance on his face.
How the fuck is the curse supposed to help someone dying? The sheer pain, the body breaking itself? How?
You are alive, are ye nae? The curse has given ye healing enough to mend serious wounds far faster than if you were just a man. She passed out, I grant ye that. But the change helped to stitch her up and kept her alive long enough for the Guti to heal her wounds properly with their gifts. You would be the same way. You aren't as durable as we are, but it would keep ye alive more readily than a normal human, nay.
Also, Miss Cynthia Mattel is now part of our Aether. She's likely the one that will be assigned to take care of you and help you adjust to the curse.
Michael snapped his fingers, pointing at Vidic and nodding his head in total agreement. This strangely had a calming effect on Jack, though he just as readily wanted to cast that affect to the contract, but it didn't feel like it. Jennifer remained quiet for a time, waiting to see if Jack would have further questions to ask. It wasn't that she was uninterested in the topic he brought forth, but her mind was still stuck grappling with everything she had heard. She could understand the point being made from the wolves, but this made her pause and question if that understanding was because she truly did so, or just from her desire skewing her thoughts. Jack's seeming ease at the answers given did at least lend some outside evidence towards the former, not the latter, so she simply shrugged and went on with her next question. I understand it's a bit of a gear shift, but how big do you guys get? That wreck guy back at the visitor center didn't seem much bigger than you, and the white wolf was actually a little taller. Vidic let out a soft chuckle, which Jack was surprised that he echoed, as Michael sighed audibly and waved a hand back. Oh, it shouldn't be not here, it should be nay. Were ye nae listening afore, lass? I said 'tis to the agents. Jennifer blushed some and looked away in embarrassment, but the ranger decided to answer anyways. That be what threw off me positive identification o' his cast. Vidic here be as tall as me kind can get, coming in at 10 feet proper and full. Though he's a bit less muscled than our most devoted wrecker, he's getting there quickly.
I still can't fathom that you lot get even bigger.
The wolves chuckled to themselves now, and then the group came at last to a bridge, one that looked to be in incredibly poor repair. All right, we're nearly there. 'Tis be your last warning to be on your best behavior. I hate to admit, but I'm just a third talon. Thus me voice doesn't carry near as much weight as those fourth and fifth talons. So first impressions be important, and I'm unsure what Sarah may have said or nae said. You both understand? Two outsiders both gave a nod of their head before Michael turned and began to walk across the terrifyingly dilapidated bridge. Ranger, is that safe? Jennifer's question was met with a soft chuckle as Michael waved a hand while Vidic offered his own out for Jennifer to take. It's just perception. The bridge is entirely fine, and just beyond it is the entrance to the tribe. Our Aether's Mikander is strong enough to give visible defense to our home and his gathering. If you look hard enough, you may see the outer walls of the Steinwerke, though they are mostly made of trees, so... The tall backpacker's words faded off as he too began to walk out onto the bridge, with Jennifer choosing to trust in the pair of wolves and stepped out onto the rickety planks. The first step felt wobbly, but she realized as she looked down that there was way more supports running under the bridge than she expected. Thus, when she turned her gaze up to Vidic, he offered a smile. The first few boards are meant to feel loose as a subtle discouragement for uninvited guests. You could actually roll a tank over this bridge and it would hold up just fine. To emphasize this point, Vidic jumped up and landed hard on the wood, which creaked and protested, but did not buckle or snap. It was a little embarrassing to admit, but Jennifer rather appreciated this display, and it thus eased her mind as she began to walk while releasing the man's hand. At last this left Jack, who was shaking as he approached the bridge, and thus Michael and Vidic both turned to look at him. Before either could speak up and ask the obvious, Jack raised his hands up and let out a soft whine.
It's not that I don't trust the bridge, but I suddenly feel like there are thousands of eyes watching me.
At first, all three of the others shared a confused look before Michael suddenly hit upon the truth.
Oh, aye, feck. I forgot you're just fresh turned mere hours ago, aye? When you're first made a full sulphur, you give off a certain appearance to the Ander and Mikander, with the most commonly shared opinion being it be like staring at an open wound. Hard to draw the eyes from, as it were. This will fade after a couple days, up to a week, when the ripples stop radiating out from your change.
Michael then gave a nod of his head, and Jack carefully stepped out onto the bridge, which creaked at first. Once past the initial obfuscation, the wood was so solid it made not a single objection to his footsteps. At last, the group made it entirely across, with Jack pulling up the rear before Jennifer suddenly jumped at two new people standing in front of them. Quickly, her head turned this way and that as she attempted to figure out where the pair had come from. She at least recognized one of them as Sarah, while the other was a man of exceptional height and build that seemed even larger than Vidic. This man had green eyes and yet light brown hair, which was a shocking contrast.
I see you all made it here.
Are you ready to go through with the questioning, Michael? Sarah asked as she crossed her arms under her bust, as she awaited his answer.
Aye, I am, Sarah. May I ask ye who'll be taking care of the fresh-turned full sulphur?
Cynthia has been asked to assist him. At her words, Vidic gave out an excited exclamation and clapped his hands together while looking at Jack.
Told ya.
This outburst made Sarah groan and roll her eyes before she looked at Vidic with a sharp glare.
Go to your duties, pup. You have a lot of training left to do, and your trial excursion is done.
The tall backpacker did not speak further, but gave a bow of his head and hastily started to jog past the pair in front of their group. As for you two, the false sulphur can wait here with George while the woman comes along with you, Michael. Prepare to meet with the Einwalder and all the Rogenwalder. Sarah then spun on her heel, which signaled for Michael and Jennifer to follow. At the same time, the other man, George, raised up a hand and motioned for Jack to take his seat on a bench that was just off the side of the trail. Meanwhile, the other three started to follow a narrow path, where suddenly sound erupted all around Jennifer, and she hastily grabbed onto the ranger and looked around.
Ye all right, lass?
What is all that noise? There was a steady ping of something metallic being hit, while various conversations and shouts could now be heard. This is when Michael let out a laugh and patted one of her hands.
Aye, that be theatre. Our Mikander named Root Howler allows the masking of all noises coming from inside the Steinwerke. Suppose I should have recognized that this be your first visit. Nay, all Aether are the same. For some get lucky and their home could be in a cave or inside a building. But we make do with what we got.
Miss Woods nodded her head as her focus turned to look at the sudden log wall she could see, with various vines and even some plant growth that helped break up hard angles and add further concealment. This was the oft-mentioned Steinwerke that marked the barrier wall of the tribe's home and protected the innermost sanctum in worship known as the Horger. This is where the dais and altars to the tribe's Mikander would be located, as well as many of the more sacred tribal constructs. It seemed that whatever concealment had been cast over the area was now revealed to her,
As she looked up the path they were walking, saw a strange sight that immediately made her tense. 3 creatures, 2 of which she could easily call wolves, were idly waiting in a corner inside a cradle of the log wall. The last thing looked as if a wolf strayed out of someone's nightmares, as its forelimbs were slightly different in shape, with hands instead of paws supporting a massive frame. She had no idea by the look of it, but this was one of the 5 forms the Wolverine could take, called the Vargur. At first, she was going to ask the obvious question, but was surprised when Michael instead interjected. "Who be our guests?" "Apparently, they are a local embracer who wish to come give some information to our Rogenwalder and Einwalder Fable. One in Vargur is apparently their Einwalder, and has thus far followed all our asks." I actually had a, I had the sentence. This is what threw me off. And has thus far has followed. I got rid of the second has. "Oh, which local tribe? DNA?" Michael asked as the group got nearer to the 3 wolves, enough so that they could easily hear their conversation. "Probably the most annoying one for sure. They say they're from Smiling Wolf Studios." This instantly made Jennifer perk up, and she couldn't help herself as she suddenly blurted out her statement. "Really? I love their work." Sarah's head turned slowly but deliberately as she glared at Jennifer, while Michael pinched the bridge of his nose firmly. This made Miss Woods blush and look away from the withering gaze, while the massive wolf tilted its head and let out what could only be described as a chuckle. A soft series of huffs and puffs of air as a smile came over its muzzle, and its ears became soft and turned to the sides. In spite of the current scrutiny on her, finding out that Smiling Wolf were in fact real werewolves recontextualized all those videos she had seen. They were certainly taking a huge risk with that sort of carnal display, but it was then that Jennifer immediately started thinking of all the mistakes and errors in them. An obvious zipper that they forgot to scrub out, some distortion in the footage to cover what she thought was just shoddy CGI. What if those were not things that needed to be scrubbed out, but had been intentionally added to let the viewer rationalize what they were seeing? Regardless of those thoughts, she felt it best not to share that she had partaken in many of SWS's lupine-themed videos, and instead kept her mouth thoroughly shut. This is when her focus, while forced, noted that the path they were following had far more carefully curated brush and vines, maintained just enough, but appearing as if wild. Was this common amongst all the werewolves? Or Wolverine, as the ranger had said? Or was this just the ones near La Pratia? At last the group passed the 3 wolves in waiting, only to meet with a massive behemoth of a creature standing at the first gate into the Steinwerke. It was the first time that Jennifer got to behold a Wolverine wrecker in nearly full glory, as the immense beast stood at 9 feet and 8 inches tall, with a body of rippling muscle that the fur could not hide. The black and gray fur of his coat shined in the slight rays of light piercing the canopy above them in the morning air, while the loincloth clued Jennifer in on the biology of the monstrous wolfman in front of them. She really was a deviant, wasn't she? "We're to bring her inside, Garen, to be questioned by the Einwalder and his Rogenwalder." Jennifer was still awestruck by the giant who looked as if he could easily bench press a fully loaded tanker truck. Granted, she was only thinking through what Michael and Vidic had said, and had no way to verify if the claim was true. This had to be a wrecker, to which she even turned to look at the ranger and mouth the question before he nodded his head and gave a thumbs up. With a slight grumble, the massive werewolf started to move. a light rattle of metal bumping against metal as rings around his wrists and arms moved with him. What purpose they served, if not decoration, she couldn't even begin to fathom. This state of bewilderment was set to continue as they moved forward, though Jennifer could not keep her eyes off the huge Wolverine wrecker, for she was in dumbstruck awe at his massive bulk. Oh, sorry. My nose suddenly got runny. Once passing the guard, the space was still claustrophobic, reminding her of one of those outdoor restrooms with the 90-degree walls to act as privacy. Before at last they came to two new Wolverine. These two had heard the conversation from before and nodded their head before they turned and opened the gate. And opened a sliding gate that concealed the tribe within. As the sightline cleared, the eyes of the human woman finally beheld a world unlike any she could have imagined. It looked as if an entire village was hidden away in the forest, where wolves roamed around freely, roughhousing or lazily sprawled inside. People were wandering about doing various tasks. Some more Wolverine in their true form were patrolling around or even working a forge nearby. At the same time, there was a few children who waddled along, with one even holding onto a wolf's tail as it lazily strode with a child in tow. A Wolverine woman walked along and then knelt down to relieve the beleaguered wolf of its charge, before the wolf turned back to check the hindrance had been removed and went to curl up somewhere else. Welcome, Jennifer Woods, to the Emerald Grove tribe, and within the walls of the Steinwerke, where we live, alongside the Ander and under the guidance and protection of our Mikander, Root Howler. What did she actually expect? What could she have possibly thought a tribe of werewolves would be like? None of the molds that had been hastily erected within her mind could encompass the majesty of what she saw. Even if she were not privy to the view of the spirits, the colors and blooms, carefully tended by various people, with wolves slipping in and out of holes along the perimeter palisade, was all so ethereal to her. It's absolutely stunning. She was about to speak, but noticed suddenly a murmur went up all around her, and then silence came. As she looked back at Michael, she saw the man's eyes go wide, for at last she turned to see what the ranger was looking at. There in the distance, coming from deeper within the village, was a massive wolf so large it stood at eye level while on all fours, with those in their true Wolverine form. She then noticed that all those around her began to move as they offered supplication to this immense beast. There was something different amongst the gathered peoples, as all the werewolves and some of the humans took a knee and lowered their head, while the rest sat on both legs and bowed their head down as they let their hands rest on their hips. Could this be an indication between those who were werewolves and those who were not? Finally, she had to acknowledge the immense creature itself, for this was not only a huge wolf, but it was decidedly not one. The most obvious clue to this assertion was that it was not made of fur and flesh, but hundreds of roots that coiled and flexed against each other as it walked in mimicry of muscles. Its fur was moss and greenery that grew along its back, and leaves rustled throughout the roots, and even cascaded from between them to float down against the ground. Each time it took a step, its paw prints left behind growths of grass and sprinklings of flowers, all the more obvious as it drew closer and closer towards her in particular. Its heavy footfalls resounded with each step, until at last it stopped, and its mouth, or what the roots mimicked as one, began to open. The sound of a huffing, growling, and slight grumble resounded in cadence and tones that she did not understand. If she were to guess, a shockingly accurate one as it turned out, the sounds were this thing's attempts at communication. "Spirit Walker, he has requested your presence." The words of the greater spirit, the tribe's Mikander root howler, made the man tense up before he slowly raised his head to look into the glowing holes of light that were his eyes. While he was a Guthi and thus more attuned to the spirits than the other castes, he was only a third Talon. Therefore, as he spoke, he did so in plain words, for mimicking the high tongue was a difficult task with the vocal cords of the Mother. Who requests me presence, O great root howler?" The massive wolf slowly turned as it continued to speak, starting to walk back towards the Aeter's Horger, expecting the Wolverine to follow him immediately. This Michael was absolutely doing, as he started to rise from his position and started to walk towards the Mikander, who finally spoke but a single word, a name that held such weight and majesty that there were no other words needed. Meraxus. Again, I don't know why my nose is trying to sabotage everything, but it's trying to sabotage everything. Far from the woods in the heart of Lapradia's financial districts, and within a tower acting as sole landscape of a plaza bearing its name, sat two men in serious discussion. Upon the shimmering surface of glass and steel was the name of a newly acquired company beneath an expanding umbrella of others, as extract glowed with the soft backlight within its letters. These two... Wait. Yeah. Okay. I had to make sure. These two were those that held ultimate say in all matters for the mining company as one. A man of older years sat with his head resting upon his hands. There he watched the other carefully trying to arrange flower pots and raised beds to be more appealing for the former. "Samuel, you don't need to fret over such details." The old man had brown eyes and dark brown hair, with a face that looked as if it were carved from stone. His words were also exacting in their tone and directness, lending weight to the type of man he was. "I understand, Father, but I want you to be more comfortable here. I know that Extract has made some mistakes." The younger man's words trailed off. His eyes were a golden hue, and his hair was lighter brown than that of his father's own. Both men, however, bore suits of the finest make to match the appearance of their carefully groomed hair and clean-shaven faces. Maybe I'll do war instead of bore. "I'm surprised you would assume I would blame you." This made Samuel tense up some and look at his father fully, as he placed down the potted plant he had been moving around. "Yes, you are still that easy to read, son. You're not to blame for the overeagerness of some middle managers looking to get ahead. Extract has taken its just public beating, and we use it as a further excuse to remove troublesome elements and replace them with our own." Slowly, the older man rose from the desk and carefully straightened his suit as he walked over and placed a hand on his son's shoulder. This made the younger man slowly lower his head and offer a nod as he processed the man's words. "You are correct, Father, but He stopped himself from speaking, but the older man offered a smile, and though his words were carefully chosen, he understood the respect in them. You have done very well here, and I expect you will continue to thrive. For now, my mind is occupied with thoughts of the end goal. On that matter, how has our contact been faring?" Samuel frowned a bit and shook his head. "No word yet. I'll call him and see what the deal is. My investigators did learn something about the purchase. We have a name now assigned to the hotel." Samuel carefully withdrew a piece of paper from his breast pocket and offered it over. "A Mr. John Wolfwood. I'm having them go through city records to try to find the man himself as we speak." The older man gave a smirk as he carefully stowed the paper into his own breast pocket and gave a firm squeeze to his son's shoulders. He then turned back to the desk and began to walk to it once more with a bit more enthusiasm in his step. "Excellent work. We're one step closer to our goal. Now we just need that unpleasant commander to hold up his end of the bargain. I leave you to it, son." Slowly the man brushed a hand across the name plaque that sat upon the desk. A temporary measure while he was in town and using the place as a base of operations for his search. For the time being, Extract would be under his direct watchful eye. The goal was so close that he could do nothing less. Thus it was that Jeremiah Rossman's plans would be advanced through his own actions. So it would be, and so too the smile that crept across his face. Alright, and that is the ending of Chapter 9. No! Yeah. That is what we're up to now. I have started Chapter 10 Rewrite. Yeah, I also wanted to introduce Extract's angle. Extract is mentioned a few times, and it was in the old outline too, the old initial draft. But I wanted to put more of a face to it and realize that no, Extract is actually one of the movers and shakers in this plot. That if Jeremiah Rossman hadn't contacted, or if they hadn't gotten contact with Commander Lorcan Thetis, like, the attack on the base wouldn't have happened, and the attack on the visitor center wouldn't have happened. And if you remember from the old draft, or from the first draft, I should say. I shouldn't say old draft, I should say first draft. But from the first draft, what Jeremiah is after is he's looking for a convergence point. And he knows from what was said in the construction reports from Sunstone about the oh shit. What did I name it? It was Briar something. Fuck. Briar's Glade. That's what the name of the hotel is. He knows from the construction reports of the Briar's Glade that there is, or there was, at least a small convergence forming in the construction. There was a part of the basement, the bunker system that's hidden beneath the hotel, that had the construction workers were giving reports of oddities happening. And these oddities sound an awful lot like a wild convergence point that hasn't basically been assigned or hasn't had a Makander find it, or been assigned a Makander when a Vordir tribe finds it. So that's what he's after. He's after the convergence point. And again, as generic as it is, John Wolfwood, which is Jonathan Ulfither's kind of alias he uses for things now, because he can't use the same name forever, right? If the same name was showing up on purchases for 202 years, well, you know, somebody eventually is going to get curious, be like, that's really odd. Huh, how strange is that?
uh, oh my god. That might be just a tiny bit noticeable. Yeah. Um, he's going to, William is going to figure it out, a little bit because Jonathan is basically going to be gloating to the Rangers. He's like, who do you think's been donating to your forest efforts, huh? Who do you think's been donating to your forestry efforts? Does the name John Wolfwood sound familiar? And they realize that it's one of their biggest backers for like the charity drives and events and things like that. Because again, the Rosentian Rangers they don't require like outside funding. The government, Rosentia is doing well enough in and of itself. It doesn't need it. But if they want to do like excess things and things that they don't have to go to a budgetary meeting for or anything like that, they can host fundraiser drives to be like, hey, we could get this done like on the normal budget time and it'll be like 5 years. Or if we get a funding drive going, we can get this done here in a few months and have it up and operational, and then we'll have space in the budget for something else. So they have things where people, the citizens can basically like donate and everything like that, and the citizens themselves get they get some perks for it too. They get perks, but essentially like, hey, if you want to, you can. And one of their biggest donators is John Wolfwood, who is Jonathan Oldfither's alias, well, current alias. And that's why they're like, and they don't want to begrudgingly admit that he's actually helped them a lot, because there's that still animosity between the disciplined tribes and the embracer tribes, right? There's still that kind of like begrudging, I don't like it, I don't want to work with you, why are you here, go away. Go away, you are like the exact opposite of what we believe and how we should do this. And there, meanwhile, the other side's like, yeah, we are the exact opposite of what we believe. What you believe is stupid. Again, they're not enemies of each other. They're not hostile with each other. They're just not friends, right? There's that like, oh, thank God it's another Wolverine. Oh no, it's an Embracer. Well, meh. Well, meh. Woofda. Okay. Because we are on the same side of a war for our very souls does not mean we have to like you. Exactly. 100%. That is entirely what it is. Like, we may be on the same side. We may be fighting for the same thing. That does not mean that we have to like... We don't have to like you. And we don't have to like what you do. We're not the same. Yeah. So in mechanical terms, because the disciplined have more time, they aren't on the front lines, right? Whereas the embracers are on the front lines. This leads to a bit more of like a mechanical difference as well. If you are disciplined, you get tech skills and things like that, like technical skills, easier. You can put points into those systems much easier than if you're an embracer. Embracers can put points into combat-oriented skills easier. Because again, they're on the front lines. They're doing more of the fighting. So it's just their competency, their veterancy in fighting, in going out, rooting out smilers, fighting demons, stuff like that, is going to be more prevalent. And the reason for that is simple. If you are a creature of sin, where are you going to go to engage in your sins? Are you going to hide out in the woods? Or are you going to go where the most amount of sin can be harvested and collected? You're going to go to where the most sin is. So you're going to go into the cities, into the towns and everything. Now, that was not to say, like I said, the whole point with Den of the Arctic Wolf is because I'm trying to avoid the World of Darkness problem. World of Darkness and Marvel problem, right? Where, small town USA is nothing happens there, nobody cares about it, nobody thinks about it. Everything happens in New York City, right? Everything happens in New York City or San Francisco. Nothing happens anywhere else. You know what I mean? And again, it's not technically true, but it's the perception that's made. Right? Especially in like the Marvel films. How many Marvel films are about a world-ending threat that appears in, I don't know, like Deer Creek, Michigan or something, right? Like, where the fuck is Deer Creek, Michigan? Meanwhile, in Resentia, Las Vegas, no, there's no Las Vegas. There is a desert, because Resentia is massive, so they do have a desert there. But no, there's no like Las Vegas. Gambling isn't as strictly controlled. It's more strictly controlled than what we have it, and then less strictly controlled at the same time, right? Like, you can't allow gambling or anything gambling adjacent for minors. Minors includes anyone below 18, right? Anyone. So even a 17-year-old's not allowed to. But you can open up your own casino, and then as long as you card everybody that comes in and you thoroughly check and make sure that none of them are minors, they could totally come in and gamble where they want. It's the same thing with kind of like Japan, where you can open up a pachinko parlor basically anywhere you want, but you have to make sure. You have to make absolutely sure that they are of age. But this does extend into digital means too, so things like loot boxes and gacha and things like that do not fly in Resentia. So any sort of like game companies that come up with that sort of thing, they get hammered, and they get hammered hard. Because you automatically, you can't just assume that the person sitting down at the computer or the console is going to be of the appropriate age. It's like, that's not how that works. They're like, yeah, but we say that it's rated blah blah, it's rated for only 18 plus and things like that. It's like, that don't fucking matter. Like, once it's installed, are you checking every single time somebody sits down at the computer? It's like, that's not feasible. Yep, 100%. 100%. That is exactly what happens. Things like liquor stores are infamous for having slot machines. Genuinely infamous for it. Dude, I used to help out. I didn't work there. My sister worked there, but I used to help out with a pizza place. Long since has collapsed, unfortunately. But it was a place that had a full like pizza bar and everything, and it wasn't like it was a pizza bar because of the way it was laid out, not because they served alcohol. No, they only served like it was basically like the old soda fountains and soda jerks, right? So that's what it was more like. And then you had your normal tables and everything like that, and it was a pizza place. But they had mini golf inside and arcade machines, and they were scattered all throughout the building. It was really fucking neat. You could play mini golf, and you would go through like all 5 floors of the building. Like, you got to think about it though. It's 5 floors. They were really asking a lot for like maintaining heat and cooling and stuff like that. It was rough, but still, it was a really cool place. It was a really, really cool place. Sake of argument, could you get away with something like once you get X in a random drop, X is removed from that chance pool in a game? No. If it costs money to even like have a chance to roll on the table, it's not allowed. If the player base can just do that on their own by currency they earn themselves in the game, it's not gambling, right? Because you're earning the currency in the game. There's no real money exchanging hands for anything. Like, and same thing with like if it's cosmetics and stuff like that. Like, that's totally fine. Because you are directly purchasing the thing in front of you. It's not going to be different. It's not something going to change on you. It is going to be the thing that you are directly purchasing. Yeah. And like, trust me, I am not like Valve is basically one of the most pro-consumer like platforms out there, bar none. But I'm still not on Valve's side when it comes to loot box stuff like that. I actually hope that Valve does lose their loot box case, and then it forces every other company to get rid of them. Do you understand how dramatically that would change things? Oh my god. Granted, the biggest problem is Minecraft. And you might be thinking like, wait, Minecraft? Yeah, you do not understand the casinos and gambling. You do not understand the casinos and gambling that are inside Minecraft. Specifically to get children addicted to it. You have no idea how bad it is. Even though Mojang says it's against their TOS, but then also says deep down buried in their rules that it's not against their TOS. But yeah, holy shit. Total microtransaction atomization. Oh, that'd be great. That would be fucking great. Nope. Electric, the reason why that doesn't work as a loophole is because that was factored in. It was factored into the unreasonableness of acquiring. The methodology through which acquiring is considered so unreasonable as to be egregious and clearly designed to be a gate that forces people to pay. That is where that comes into effect. So it's that whole thing of like, well, you can get one roll if you grind for an entire month straight sort of deal. It's like, no, that's not acceptable. That's not fucking acceptable in the slightest. again, if it's something where like, oh, for a few hours, then they'd be like, okay, that's not unreasonable, right? That's a clearly achievable thing. Ooh. But you don't want to risk it. Nobody wants to be the case study that risks it. As Rosentia is also, again, because it's more of a it's a federation, so it's more of a federation style of governance. It's a republic, but you need specific, like, you need to be granted specific abilities. The ability to vote or to hold public office or to teach and things like that is one of the parts of Rosentia that is a requirement. You are not allowed to do that unless you have earned that right to do so. That's not an open for everyone sort of thing. So long as you're of age and are breathing. No. There are actually strict requirements for that. Also, I forgot, it's Wednesday. I don't know how I forgot it's Wednesday, but it's Wednesday, my dudes. The air sirens were going off, the weather sirens. We have had a lot of fucking storms lately, by the way. Anyways. Another key difference in Rosentia is that judges, it's known as the bar test, right? Judges are held to a higher standard in Rosentia. So, if a judge makes a judgment call, it's what they're called to do. If a judge makes a judgment call to release somebody and that person commits a crime, the judge is now on the hook for that as well. And a lot of people argue, well, that makes them less likely to offer leniency. I'm just like, yeah, in some cases it does. It makes them gun shy. Then you can argue they're a bad judge. But what it prevents is shit like we have here in the US, where you have activist judges that are releasing, kitty diddlers and murderers and thieves and stuff like that out because, oh, they're black. Just let them go. Oh, they're black. They didn't know better. Like, no. That shit won't fly. Again, the judge themselves then becomes a partner to whatever that person does. Like, and it's a strike system too. It's not a, oh, you believed in someone's better nature and they betrayed you sort of deal, so now you're fucked for life. No. It's a strike system. Right? It is one of those things where, like, hey, you believe that this person's better nature, they fucked up and they betrayed your judgment. We're going to hold a strike against you. You're not going to suffer anything now, but know that strike is there. And then if you do it again, well, you already have a strike against you. Now you're going to become financially liable. And then if it happens for a third time, no, now you are directly tied as a co-conspirator to the offense. That's when it becomes, you are now officially a defendant in the case yourself. Your judge robes are removed, your ability to deal anything with the law has been revoked, and you are now on trial alongside them. You are now considered co-conspirator of their crime. Yeah, and remember, it's a whole thing where it is a 3-strike system. The first strike, nothing happens, but the strike is mentioned on your record. The second strike, you are now financially liable alongside the person. So that already can be absolutely damning. If the person has to pay back $1 million, especially Rosentia, right? $1 million in Rosentia is a fuck ton of money. So if they have to pay back $1 million in petals, oh my god. And the judge has to now as well, well, good fucking luck. Hopefully you're rich, judge. Otherwise, you are fucked. And then the third strike is, no, you are directly a co-conspirator of this. You don't have a financial responsibility. You are now directly responsible for the crime as well. And this is a strike system that decays over time. So if you've had this happen and it's been 10 years, a strike falls off, right? It's 10 years for the first strike, I should say. It's 15 years if you have 2 strikes, and then it goes down to 10, and so on. It is a scaling system because you could have just made a bad call, right? Or the person that you released gets into trouble that it seems kind of like up in the air, reasonable sort of thing, like, the person gets released, the victim's family doesn't believe that the person is actually innocent, or doesn't believe that the justice has been served, or for whatever reason, the victim's family attacks the accused defend themselves, sort of thing, right? Like, those cases of reasonableness of a, like, yeah, no, we're not just gonna make it be like, oh, you just have to take, right? You have to take it. Oh, absolutely. And not just guilty of manslaughter, mind you, guilty of first-degree murder. Get fucked. 35 years in prison. Get fucked. Hopefully without the ability for parole. Hopefully they removed parole from the table and he has to serve all 35 years. Exactly. That's the reasonableness element of it, Anti-Boy Scout, is like, you release a guy, you're like, I believe in your better nature. I'm going to be lenient on you. So, he gets released. He then is so exacerbated, he speeds on his way home and gets a speeding ticket. It's like, okay, that's, fine. That the judge is not going to be clapped for that because the dude just made a mistake. It wasn't like an egregious crime or anything, right? But it's one of those ones where, like, the judge is like, look, it's to prevent activist judges who, like, look at someone and be like, well, for whatever reason, I'm just going to let you go, even though you said you're going to kill again. And then the person goes out and kills someone immediately. It's like, okay, now you're in fucking trouble. now you're in trouble. Yeah, reasonableness is a part of the 3-strike system. The whole, like, okay. And there's a time window there too. Like, if they've released them and that person then 7 years down the line commits a crime or another crime, that initial judge isn't going to be held responsible, right? The initial judge that may have been lenient on them isn't suddenly going to be held responsible for, like, oh, for the rest of your life you could never do anything wrong, otherwise I'm in trouble. No, that's not how it works. Again, there's a reasonableness clause that is put into it. The whole point is that the system is designed to specifically target activist judges who are doing things to throw monkey wrenches in the system or who are clearly corrupt and complicit. Yeah, in that case, things happen versus he didn't do nothing, commits more felonies on the way out. Exactly, 100%. Like I said, and it's specifically, like I said, it's to target activists and corrupt judges. Because corrupt judges will be more inclined to release, like, organized criminals and stuff like that. Stuff like mobsters, just any type of organized crime. It's hard to say mobsters, mafia, triads, stuff like that, none of this stuff actually exists in that methodology in Rosentia, but there is organized crime. There are obviously organized crime families and syndicates and stuff like that do exist. And RICO is not a thing in Rosentia, partly because it's too all-encompassing, right? The problems with RICO is the way, like, it sounds great on paper, but then you start looking into the practicality of it, where a person who is only associated with an associate of an associate is now also being charged with all the crimes under RICO as if they themselves had committed it. That gets very, like, that's very skeezy. Rico was like they needed to do something to fight organized crime, but I think Rico is too. Rico was way too guilt by association sort of thing for me. Way too much like that. Oh, because you were told that you had to pick up the boss whenever the boss wanted it and drive him around. It's like, and people that are argue in favor of it is like, well, then the prosecutors don't just have to bring those people in. It's like, but they will though. Like, but they will though. That's the problem. Yeah, collective punishment, BS, 100%. Like I said, I get the whole thing. I think you should be able to chain it in an organization. I think that's 100% viable. You should be able to chain it from the boss to the underboss to the foot soldiers that do it. But you cannot therefore tie that direct thing. It shouldn't be a thing where all parties are guilty of all things, right? Instead, Rico should be the ground party is guilty of this. The party above them knew of that, so they are also guilty of it. And then another ground party, not associated with the first ground party, was guilty of this. The one above it is shared by the other ground party. He knew both of the crimes, so he's guilty of both of them. That's the way it should work, right? It should work as like a cascading system of crime, a cascading system of guilt. And then the boss is guilty for all of it, right? Because you are the head of the family, you're the one that makes the orders, you make the rules, you are guilty, therefore, of every crime that they are doing under your command. That's the way it should work. Rico is very much, for me, too much of a blanket. We don't want to take the time to separate out based on rank. You are guilty of everything. I was like, I don't like it. I don't like it. Like I said, it's way too collective for me. Roping in the mailman and maids with crap doesn't pass the smell test. Yeah. And that's why. And again, people are like, well, the prosecutors don't have to do it. The problem is that they will do it. Right? Prosecutors are already infamously corrupt. Because they play political games to get their position to begin with. So, they're already, I'm wary about prosecutors to begin with. 500 years in prison, immortal dragon crime boss. LOL, Lamau. Oh. Again, not immortal though, ageless. But yeah, basically, same thing. LOL, Lamau even. Oh, that's just a nap? Okay, fine. Fine, whatever. No, and again, there's no Rosentia. None of them can actually have punishment for dragon kind. It's just not feasible. It's the whole reasonableness thing. None of them can actually hold sway because none of them are technically citizens of anywhere. But you can't do anything about them. They are just a natural force in the world. You cannot get rid of dragon kind. So, what ends up happening is, if there is one that goes bad, you kind of have to hope that other dragons will deal with the threat instead. And this gets into the whole concept of, how dragons work. Remember, they are the fonts of all magic, so yeah. Lawyers, actors, feds, and the like are the lowest of the low. Yeah, actors are definitely down there. It's one of those things you should never take advice from somebody whose job is to pretend to be someone else. Ever. Lawyers, again, it all depends. Again, there are some good prosecutors out there, but there are a lot more that are activists, people. the Rittenhouse trial was a clear example of what a truly corrupt activist prosecutor looks like. But then you have defense lawyers, right? Who, especially public defense lawyers, who are very much way overworked and way underpaid. Like, I wouldn't hold them to the same standard as other lawyers. Feds, oh god, it all depends, right? Can we sue people in hell? There's enough lawyers. Oh. Yeah, alright. Oh, by Minnie. Why did they change to Minnie? It should be Monty. Yeah, I don't know why that's Minnie. Okay. I'll show you what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at anything important. I'm just sitting here chit-chatting with you guys, basically. Yeah, so that's, anyways, that's just the basic way that the law functionality. There's a cascading system to try to deal with organized crime, but the problem is that you have to get the connection, right? So the one thing they have to prove is that there was knowledge known. That's the connection needed. You don't have to have committed the crime or even ordered the crime. If you knew the crime was being committed in an organized crime racket, you are guilty of it. And again, it's a cascading system that goes up and up. So the grunts, the foot soldiers, are only guilty of their specific crimes that they have directly committed because they are being ordered to commit them. The ones that are doing the ordering are guilty of all the foot soldiers under their command of all their crimes at the same time. So again, it's a cascading series to the point where the bosses get, like, nuked. When the cascading law gets used, the bosses of the organization get absolutely nuked. Minnie, I think she works for Smiling Wolf Studios. Yeah. And again, this is the other thing too. Jennifer is starting to put some pieces together. Another thing that she's not thinking of at the moment, but is made more clear, is that Smiling Wolf Studios, all of their stuff, even though it's obviously used for carnal nature and everything like that, even though it is porn, clearly, all of their stuff is not aggressive or violent. Right? There are other studios that are trying to do what Smiling Wolf Studios does because they've obviously created a new niche, right? And that niche has money. So other studios will try to get in, but they try to do their own twists on it, and they'll do more like the rapey stuff. Smiling Wolf Studios doesn't do that. There's a lot more of like the wolf coming in to protect somebody or find somebody lost in the woods and is trying to help them out or things like that. That's what their showcase, right? Again, it is subtle manipulations to be like, hey, don't fear them. They'll help you. They'll be there to help you. And even in the reverse, where it's the men finding female werewolves, the female werewolf is usually hurt or in trouble or is like wounded in some way, or and it's the man comes along and assists them. Obviously, the stories are pretty mundane, they're pretty paint by numbers, but that's kind of the general vibe they go for. Pizza guy / plumber just happens to be a werewolf. Yeah, that sort of thing, right? They're not, they aren't there for, they don't want people to associate in their minds the aggression of it, right? Or like, say there's a woman who is being harassed by a group of guys, and the werewolf comes along and chases the guys off. And then the woman is grateful, and then, of course, they bang. Right? That's the sort of... we're not talking about, like, the greatest stories ever told here, but that's the subtle thing of, like, the werewolf came to protect her. It is not the werewolf is claiming her sort of thing, right? And the other thing too is that they're always the human in the stuff is always willing. There is no like they aren't screaming or thrashing or trying to kick or punch or try to get away or anything like that. They're always willing. That is the key thing. Even though the set dressing is different, the story beats are a little different here and there, they are willing participants in it. And I don't just mean the actors. I mean in the film itself, in the videos themselves, they are clearly willing in the moment. Oh. Remember, propaganda doesn't have to be just for governance or anything like that. Propaganda can be used for anything. Technically, advertisements is propaganda. But yeah, so this is their subtle way of influencing things. To be like, no, protectors, decent, not aggressive, not scary, because Jonathan is preparing for the day when a live stream goes up and reveals that werewolves are real, and because they can't do anything about live streams, right? You can't. If they can't get to where the data is being stored, they can't fuck with it. So live streams are a nightmare. And because live streams are very popular in Rosentia now, because remember, this is not... Rosentia is a few years more advanced along than what we are here, right? Like, we're 2026. Rosentia is like 2050. You know what I mean? So stuff like live streaming and things like that are very popular. Even if the market in and of itself is just the countries themselves. They're more like super networks within each of the major countries, and they branch out a little bit into kind of neighboring countries that want to get along, but there is no like total World Wide Web. Right? They're more like super networks of these massive countries, and then some of the countries, the smaller countries nearby, might use the same network, might use different ones. There's not a lot of, like, you can't go on the Rosentian web and then go to the Golden Dawn Imperium stuff or the Clanhold stuff. And even the Clanhold is super fragmented. Because there might be clans that hate each other that much. Oh. We hate each other so much, we're gonna you're not allowed to see anything from that particular clan or those particular sets of clans, stuff like that. Yeah. It gets very messy. Yeah. So say if somebody's out walking in the town and they've got a video camera up and running and they're live streaming to a bunch of people and a werewolf suddenly shows up, like an actual werewolf, there's nothing they can do to get rid of that data, right? Then they'll have to go around the other tricky ways of like discrediting or like making shit up or like trying to falsify stuff that's actually seen, getting stuff like sites to take down the content and stuff like that. Like there are all kinds of things they have to try in that regard because they have no way to directly influence it. If it's security footage, like they can do the right of the forgetful record or the right of the erased record, and they can just wipe it there on the site because the data is being housed directly on the site. This is where they're getting wary because there are security companies that are rising, private security companies, which is what Grey Wolf follows as a guideline. There are private security companies that are rising where they are starting to house, like, hey, you don't need to hire security for yourself. If you hire us, we will have your camera systems directly transmit your data to our data center. We will watch over it ourselves with our security team from a separate location. That's starting to become very popular. So they're very like, things are going in an obvious direction where they're not going to be able to control this. It will get revealed at some point. That's why Jonathan is going about this in the way that he is. to try to lessen the blow, make people think like, hey, it's not so bad. It's also why there is a concerted effort amongst many tribes to bring back up the old, like, founding mythology of Rosentia when it went from city-state into republic. Because remember, the flag of the capital, the original flag of Rosentia, is the rose with the wolf. So the whole idea of the protector wolves that assisted Rosentia on its rise. Stuff that's now been brought into myth because, oh, that's cute, you know. They want to talk about how Rosentia was so great that it had the, you know, the natural world itself. The animals were also helping thing. You know, it makes a good story. But they don't want to, like, that's what they just cast it off as. Oh, it just makes a good story. Even though that's 100% what happened. The Wolverine, the Revorin, the Barovin, they all assisted in Rosentia's rise to dominance. And because they assisted, they had say in how Rosentia rose to dominance. And part of that how is that the tribals that submitted were spared. And that tribal culture then influenced and spread throughout Rosentian culture over time. That's how it works. So that's why Rosentia is now a very spiritual nation. It has lots of shrines and shrine tenders and priests all over the place. Now, do they all believe? Are they entirely faithful? No, obviously. There are some people that just view it as a job, right? It would be dishonest to say, therefore, every single priest is in on it. No, there are priests that just do it as a job. There are shrine tenders that just do it as a job to get some pocket money, right? There are shrines that are neglected. There are shrines that are abandoned. They're lost. It happens. It's just the way the world works. It's same thing with, like, while most construction companies will build a totem shrine inside of their buildings when they construct, of the ones that do it, Sunstone is really the only ones that truly believe, but to be fair, they are run by Wolverine. They're the only ones that truly believe in the power of the spirit totem itself inside their buildings. The other companies that do it still just do it because that's tradition. That's the way that Rosentia builds buildings. It's kind of like you're taking a bottle and bashing it across the side. It's your christening of the building. You put the spirit totem in the top part of the building. That's what you do. And that is supposed to be christening the building. The construction is now complete. It is only stuff like Sunstone construction that they 100% know that the spirit totem is entirely powered and is actually a real thing, and they do it because they truly believe. Remember, Victoria mentions in Den of the Arctic Wolf that, her rest of her family are, like, putting on the appearance of being spiritual. They'll go to shrines and they'll offer up stuff to the shrines and things like that. But it's all just pantomime. It's all just an act. Meanwhile, the servants inside of her family home and herself, Victoria, would actually go and give their offerings to the totem shrine in the home itself. Which is why usually when bad things happen, or like if there's a drunken fight and gunfire erupts or whatever, or a rival family tries to hit the Vinks, none of the servants ever seem to have problems. And it's because the spirit of the house is literally protecting them. It's also why Victoria was able to sneak in, get the money, and get out without being caught. The spirit of the house was literally helping guide her along the way. She didn't know it at the time, but that's what happened. Oh. So yeah, and like I said, this also has a cascading effect into the vampires as well, where vampires are trying to figure out why there are certain buildings they can't go into, and that's because those buildings have spirits in them. And these spirits are basically setting up a barrier that's not allowing them. They can't figure out why, because the shape of the building doesn't matter, the size of the building doesn't matter, like the colors, the construction, the stuff that went into it does not matter. So it's one of those things where they can't figure it out, and it's because they physically cannot understand spirits are in there, right? Vampires have no way of knowing that spirits actually exist. They can be told they exist, but they have no way to actually interact with them. They have no way to actually observe them. They have no way to thwart them or do anything that can harm them unless the spirit shows itself. And then that gets down to the point of, like, why would a spirit do that? Why would a spirit take the risk? Yep. Woofda. And so that just gets into, like I said, I like this, these systems within systems that have cascading consequences, or like just taking things as they logically would. Again, logically, even it doesn't matter how spiritual the nation is, logically there will be people in that nation who don't believe a word of it. You know, you're not a monolith, you're not a hive mind, right? You're going to have people that disagree for one reason or another. Like, maybe they've just had a lot of rotten luck in their lives and they don't realize the spirits are fucking with them. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make them lesser, it's just the spirits probably won't interact with them as much. Same thing with the shrine tenders. There are people that tend the shrines just because they think it's the right thing to do. They may not even believe the spirits exist or that the shrines have power. They just tend the shrine because somebody's got to do it, and they don't want to see this beautiful old historical building fall into ruin. It's just the way people are, right? I think that's another aspect of, like, that should be taken more into account in a lot more settings, at least in my opinion. A lot of settings, not all, there are obvious exceptions. I can't believe I have to say that. But this is literally one of those situations when you say, hey, most of the lights are red. What? But there's a blue light right there. How does that invalidate what I just said when I said most of the lights are red? That would imply that some of them aren't, wouldn't it? Anyways, but yeah. It's one of those things where, like, you should have people that just, they're going through the motions, because that's what people would do, right? Exactly. Why do you care? Someone has to, so it may as well be me. It's the whole thing of, like, oh, nobody's been to that shrine in decades, so it's falling apart and dilapidated. And then there's just a person that's like, you know what? That's really sad. I'm going to take care of it. They may not give a shit about spirits at all. They may think it's all just hokum nonsense. But they may look upon that dilapidated shrine and be like, that's history there. That's historical. Somebody should maintain it. Somebody should protect it. And it might as well be me. Now, I think that should be done more in a lot of settings. Far too many settings are very, like, samey. They're very much the Planet of Hats, right? Where all the elves act the exact same, all the dwarves act the exact same, all the humans act the exact... Well, actually, no. Humans tend to be the only ones that are allowed to have differing opinions. But all the elves must be totally lockstep with each other. All the dwarves must be totally lockstep with each other. All the orcs must be totally lockstep with each other. But humans are allowed to have differing things because the writer is human and they understand that there are people that have differences from them. And if there are differences, here's the one. Here's the one that trips up a lot. If there are differences, they are suddenly made a different subspecies. That's the one I don't like. Where, oh, all elves believe the same, but then there are elves that don't believe the same, but they're known as dark elves, but all the dark elves believe the same as all other dark elves. It's why Drizzt Do'Urden was actually interesting. He was a dark elf that didn't believe in the monolithic cause that the dark elves believed in. He believed in a better way. It's why the resistance fighters in the country of Fae are so fucking interesting. Because Fae is not a monolith. Then once in a while, they have an increase in loose change they find after they start taking care of the shrine. Yep. Or what ends up happening is they'll usually just associate it directly with the shrine offerings themselves. They'll be like, they'll rationalize it away where it's like, oh, hey, you know what? Because I'm taking care of this shrine, there are people coming to the shrine and they're all clearly leaving donations. They'll rationalize it away that way, you know? Even though that's not what's actually happening. I mean, it's just people don't want to have effort in making stories. Instead, they just do stereotypes. Here's the other thing, though. Stereotypes arise because there's truth in them, too. Now, it's not, again, what makes stereotypes wrong is that you're casting every single one with the same brush. But stereotypes do arise because of a truth. They're not just made up out of nowhere, right? You don't just have like, oh well, anybody named Billy is a hookum dookum. It's like, what the fuck does that mean? It's like, well, they're a hookum dookum. Like, what are you talking about? What is a hookum dookum? Like, there needs to be an actual kernel of truth in there, which is what allows the stereotype to continue. It's the whole thing of, like, you know, white woman moment, right? The stereotype is white woman moment, and we all know what that means. And, again, it's because there is a kernel of truth in there. Is it all of them? No. Is it the vast majority? No. Is it even the majority? No. But there's enough. There are enough of them that the stereotype has been created, right? It's the whole thing with like no, let's not go there. I think we're already a little too spicy. Let's not go there. Oh. You need a balance on everything. Tropes and stereotypes need a reason to be there. Exactly. It's the same with, like, in mine, the stereotype is that dwarves are all drunken idiots and miners obsessed with the stone. And again, that stereotype is there for a reason. Dwarves do spend a lot of time making boozes and ales and things like that to drink, right? It's an easy process that requires time and fermentation, something they can do on the side while they are working. And it gives them a drink that they can use, a drink that they can imbibe that makes them feel good and stuff like that while they're working. A lot of that work is carving out their mountain homes. They're homes that they find more defensible because they are built into stone. This has also lent them a sort of idea that stone is very, very important. Again, the stereotype is there because of an actual logical reason. But does that mean all the dwarves do that? No. You have Harkus in Den of the Arctic Wolf. Yeah, sure, he runs a pub, he runs a bar, but he runs a bar in the ass end of nowhere. He runs a bar in the middle of a backwater nothing town called Point Crescent. Like, he is one dwarf. He doesn't live in a grand hall. His house isn't dug in the ground. No, he lives in a normal house. Oh boy, $20. I can finally fix the small window on the east side of the shrine. Spirit. Okay, cool. I was honestly expecting him to buy that game he wanted, but I'm not going to complain. Yeah, exactly. 100%. That's what it basically happens, right? Because again, the shrine tender in that situation is not associating that they are being rewarded and that the spirits are basically giving their thanks for them showing due deference and supplication to the spirit by taking care of their house. They don't understand that they're being rewarded for that. They just think it's people coming by the shrine and giving donations and stuff like that. That's what they think. Warhammer Dwarves and their grudges all must be archived. It's the same thing here with wisdom in stone, right? Or they call it wisdom in stone, wisdom in the stone, wisdom of the stone. It all means the same thing, right? It's just a different turn of phrase for meaning the exact same thing. These are carvings that were left behind by their ancestors. They hold special deference that their ancestors knew things that they do not know now, right? Basically, yeah, 100% anti-Boy Scout. That's basically it. Remember, they don't even have like a true medical office. They have a general practitioner, Dr. Fitzgerald and Andrews, Dr. Fitzgerald and Andrews, who are not only doctors but also veterinarians at the same time. They don't get a veterinarian, they don't, and then a like medical clinic by itself. No, it's a combo deal. Because that's the town. That's what it is. It's a small town. That's what you got. Yeah, you have the grocery store. There are no other grocery stores. There is one grocery store. You go to the grocery store. If you say that in Point Crescent, everybody knows exactly where you're going because there is only one. When you say you're going to the bar, everybody knows because there is only one. The gas station. Well, we know where that is too. Anyways, be back a second, chat. My bells have said hello, and I'm gonna throw that stuff in the air fryer afterwards too. So, be. Okay, bad time to unmute, but there you go. I was about to say hey, and then that belt just came up out of nowhere. Bad time to unmute. My apologies, chat. My apologies. Oh. Oh my god. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna sit down, get comfy, and say hello. But wait, advantage. Provicho. Provicho. Does that just mean advantage? You got translated. You got translated. Dimitri, how dare you? How could you get translated? Did it actually translate? Yeah, it did. That's a new one. The AI translator thing is so scuffed and fucked. You have no idea what it's going to actually translate or what it thinks needs to be translated. Like if you do he, it'll translate it to he, but with one less H as like an example. I was like, okay, what was the point of that? Boob. You just said boob. You didn't even get translated. You just said boob. I can see when the translation has happened. Here, I'll show you. This is how you know the translation has happened. Here. Look. Here you go, chat. Wah! Look, see right there? Right there? Look. Look. That's how you know the translation has happened. You just said boob. You can't gaslight me. I know when the translator has kicked in. Oh. Bohika. Goddess. Bohika. You can't gaslight me, Prosecutor Valentine. How dare! How dare you! Darn it. I can't. I think I have too many scripts to correct the shitty performance. Yeah. All right. All right. Right. What do you want to do? But yeah. Within Wolvarn culture, the 5 casts are as follows. 5 casts along with their function are as follows. And we want to put insert a table. I wish I could make these like, I don't know, like center alignment. Is there a way to do that? No. No, of course not. I would never be. That would be too simple. Oh, wait, actually, no, hold on. Do this. Phase of the moon. Or let's do moon phase. Let's not get that. Moon phase. This cast is assigned to them based on the moon under which they are born. Health? What? Gesundheit. Oh. I didn't know that's what Gesundheit meant. I was just, dissociated off as Gesundheit. Health? Function. This is why I wish I could put this as like, center. Uncapitalize those. All right. Here we need to make a link here for Wrecker. Need to make a link here for Yalderskald. Need to make a link here for the Damari. Link here for the Goothy. Link here for the Speya. I also need to add these all to dictionary. And I might need to separate these off real quick. Wrecker, Yalder, Skull, Damari, Goofy, Speya. Add a dictionary. Add a dictionary. Add a dictionary. And Speya really is already in there? I guess Speya and Wrecker are already in there. Okay. Cool. Like I said, I needed to add those to the dictionary. One are blessed by Mani and the other divine dragons to take on 5 distinct forms in furtherance of their mission to carry out the divine mandate. These forms serve various purposes. And benefits. Follows. Okay, now here's where we put in another table, another table. Form, nickname, maybe benefits. Author. And slash woman. It's indistinguishable from normal people. Of the host race. Okay. Stop capitalizing. The beastly man. Taller. Able. Wow. Oh my goodness. Oh. You know what? Um, you know what? El Dragoon, I think I'm gonna take that as a story beat. Like, it might not be a full story, but that'd be a fun short story. Just like some some teenager or something that looks upon like an old dilapidated shrine and like decides that somebody's got to do something, and so he just starts taking care of it, and he starts slowly getting granted more little benefits at first, and then they get larger and larger as he goes until it eventually awakens his faith. That could be an interesting like way to do it. And, like the end of the short story is him as an old man, like sitting at the shrine watching as people are actually using it again. I think that'd be a really neat little short story for the setting. You know what I mean? No like great big stakes or anything like that. It's just him choosing to do it, and he kind of like awakens to it. Like as he goes through his life, as he faces hardships and things like that, it just comes along. Maybe I'll call it like Journal of a Shrine Tender or something. Just a quick little short story. Okay. um. That time I cleaned up a shrine for community service and got blessed by the spirit that lives there. That could be like a funny, like, sub thing, right? I think I would do that. I would do that as like a funny subtitle. You know what I mean? Like totally, that'd be like the joke subtitle of it. The real title being the Journal of a Shrine Tender, and then the subtitle being that time I cleaned up a shrine for community service and got blessed by the spirit that lives there. I think that would be fucking perfect. You know, just as like a little nod, like I know how you fuckers work. I know how you fuckers work.
Timing and lastly, the Ulfer. Wolf. All right. Now, question is, that's what I thought. First, add a dictionary. Then, add. Whoa. Then, add link. First, add a dictionary. And add link. Yes, I don't think we need to do anything like that. Yep, we can just add link. We're already working on a thing there. Oh, the Wolverine one would just tie right back into Wolverine. But, you know, if somebody clicks on it and then it just brings it to the top of the page, it'd be like, funny. I guess let's remove this link. It would be funny, though. But no, let's remove it. Add the dictionary first. Add a link. H along with specific gifts usable in specific forms. Alright. That would be funny. That would be pretty funny, wouldn't it? Alright. Yeah, Journal of a Shrine Tender. I think that'd be fun. Maybe have it be like over several years. And like eventually as he's like more of an adult and everything like that, he's officially become a shrine tender, and he sees like I kind of wonder what creature it should be that's like he sees just sitting there lounging on the shrine one day. And he comes to realize that that is the spirit of that shrine. And that he can see it now because he's obviously like, you know, he's been taking care of it. And so the spirit feels comfortable showing himself to the shrine tender. Yeah. I'm formulating the story now. Like, and we could follow, like, key moments in his life. You know, like, maybe as he graduates school and then he decides to become a shrine tender full time. And then he goes on to, like, maybe dating a woman and, like, asks the shrine just because he doesn't know if he's making a mistake. Because maybe he's dating a beautiful woman. And he's like, well, you know, should I ask her to marry me? And stuff like that. And then the shrine kind of gives him, or what he perceives as an answer of like, no, there'll be someone else. And there's more of a plain woman that he meets and talks with. And they end up being much more like happy together than jumping to further on when he has his own children and stuff like that while still working at the shrine. And then the last bit would be him as an old man. Maybe one of his children is there working the shrine with him, but he's sitting on the porch Maybe the wife is no longer there, like she's already passed on to the other side, and he's just sitting there having a conversation with the spirit who's watching as the festival or whatever is taking place at the shrine. Kind of like just a nice little way to go through somebody's life, and then that be the like capstone of the end of it. Just a single book, a single like thing where he just kept little memoirs of it. A whisper in the wind from the shrine spirit. No, he's gonna interpret it, because he'll ask, and then like things will like crackle or break and stuff like that, and he'll realize like he'll start assuming that the shrine is trying to tell him no, like she's not the one, and then eventually he meets a different woman instead. That bitch be crazy. Granted, I don't just want it to do because the shrine said so. I want to put in hints that she's like trying to tempt him away from it. She's like, oh, but working on that shrine must be boring all the time. So I'm like, why don't we go do this? So like, like, have you ever thought about getting a job somewhere else, sort of thing? You know what I mean? The temptations to bring him away from the shrine. And then that, I can leave it up to the reader if they want to interpret that, like, the shrine is trying to keep him around, or if the shrine is like, that's someone who fundamentally wants you to change for her and doesn't want to listen to what you actually want to do. That's someone thinking only about themselves. And then it's switching to then showcasing him finding the other woman who is more interested about the shrine, and she even starts helping around the shrine to help him do the jobs that require more than one person. Like maybe swapping out some of the beams and stuff, and like getting rid of some of the old wood and stuff like that. That like they're just so much more helpful when you have another person there to assist you with the labor. And then again, it can be up to the reader's interpretation if the shrine did it specifically because it wanted more tenders, or if it was actively trying to be like, no, she actually cares about you and she's fine with your interests. She doesn't want you to change for her. She actually cares about you the way you are now. Maybe that could even be a thing too, where maybe someone in his family gets sick, and it's not looking good, and they bring them to the shrine, and the shrine gets rid of the fiander that's messing with them, or the fiander that's slowly sapping their energy or whatever. And after visiting the shrine, the person gets better, but it could be attributed to something else too. Like the person doesn't believe the way that the viewpoint character will be, the protagonist will, but they can be like, oh well, we got that new doctor and he was able to help more than the old doctor was. I think that would be an interesting like just look at how it all works, and how like a normal, just totally average citizen of Rosentia would look at it. Someone who's not in the know, someone who doesn't have powers, who didn't like suffer a near-death experience and is now an Anvaki or anything. Just a normal, average person. Yeah, I'm really liking that. I'm gonna mark this down to some ideas. Hold on a second. I'm gonna mark down some ideas. Like I said, I'm even gonna do the joke. So, first off, center title,
Sarin, and because it's where it takes place, a shrine tender's journal. Or should it be a journal of a shrine tender or a shrine tender's journal? I think journal of a shrine tender. And then we'll put here the subtitle because again, I'll keep the joke in because it's funny. I genuinely think that joke is funny. At time I cleaned up a shrine for community service and got blessed by the spirit that lives there. And just so you guys can see, I think it's funny, right? At time I cleaned up a shrine for community service and got blessed by the spirit that lives there. Oh. Okay. Just gotta go full light novel. Maybe I'll have it be like, as he does this, maybe like a teacher at the school encourages him to keep a journal of like all the little things he's doing so that he can look back on it and see like everything he's done. You know what I mean? Like maybe that's what I'll have. Like one of the teachers at the school is like telling him, you should keep a journal about all the stuff that you're doing so that when you're later on in life, you can look back at everything you've accomplished with it. Like, you know, it also as subtle encouragement to have him keep at it so he gets to see it. Also for tax purposes. Now, taxation in Rosentia is very much sales-based. But that's the joke of that Samantha was telling William is like, I have an exemption. I don't have to pay sales tax. I work with the government, don't you know? But there are subtle things too, where like in order to help alleviate the monetary needs for government purposes, the government in and of itself doesn't pay the tax because that'd be silly. The government pays the tax to then give itself the money. No. So the government buys at the direct price of what it is. Oh, because then it would just get silly if it's like, okay, you have a 30% tax, right? So the government buys that $3 thing. They're not going to spend $3.90 on it to then give themselves 90 cents that they can use to buy something else like that. That's pointless. So the government just buys it at the flat thing. Woofda. All right. trying to figure out how best to start it. How best to start this? I just want to get like a little blurb, like how I want to open the sort of like hook at the very beginning of it. Maybe we start it at the end. Okay, what kind of creature should it be at the shrine? Should it be like a spirit that's totally alien, or should it be something simple? Is it a normal first-person story? It's a normal story, right? Not so much first-person. It's narrator-based. I like to do like what you saw, where I will slip into the person themselves talking about themselves, and that will be more associated directly with like when, for example, when Jennifer was talking about how she couldn't take her eyes away from the wrecker because she was in awe of his size and strength, and then she was like, oh, I really am a deviant. Oh, hold on a second. Hold on a second. I just realized I gotta put the stuff in the air fryer. I didn't put the stuff in the air fryer. My stomach growled at me and was like, oh, I've got the stuff in the air. I didn't do it. I'll be right back. Okay, it's in the air fryer. It's in the air fryer. We're good to go. Ugh. I just think it would be better if he just found it fixed up. But with the subtitle, you could have his son or grandson telling the story to a kid getting community service. No, that's not what I want. Not at all. I want it to be from the perspective of just a kid, a teenager who just looks up the hill at the shrine of his hometown, and it's been neglected for a long time, slowly falling apart, and he just decides on his own volition to fix it up. He just takes it on as a community project. He's not being punished or anything. He's not forced to do it. He just does it of his own volition. Just because he's like, well, might as well, if someone's got to do it, might as well be me. let's see. Thinking like I'm thinking we start at the end as kind of like the like just a little bit at the end of him just sitting him walking over to sit down on the porch of his home, which is connected to the shrine itself. Remember, the way shrines are laid out, he would be in the southwest portion. Or would it be southeast? Fuck. I have it laid out in the Piercing the Veil. Yeah, this would be like a mid-sized shrine. So, a warm breeze swept down through the treetops and cast the robe up from his feet to expose the well-worn sandals beneath. They had experienced much through their long life alongside the man, now made old from time, that took such care of them. Okay. Again, I need to decide what kind of creature I want. Do I want it to be some abstract thing? Or do we want it to be like an animal? An animal that obviously has some fantastical elements to them, but like I don't want to just do a wolf or anything like that, or just a fox or a snake or anything. I feel like, what if we made it like a bird, like some kind of bird? Let's make it a. What if it's a a black bird, maybe with golden eyes, and it kind of leaves a trail of darkness, like speckled with stars when it moves, kind of like a little smear as it's going across the world, or like a paintbrush stroke. Breeze. I don't know, Pip Pip. I don't know. I haven't seen anything about it. I haven't looked at it. I didn't even know Crazy Taxi World Tour existed. I'm do that as that. All right. Each step he took in opposition to the breeze was one step closer to his ultimate goal,
A well-used seat at the edge of the porch with enough shade to be comfortable and enough light for warmth. Interesting. There, resting beside it, was his lifelong companion, a bird black of coloration, with golden eyes and the slight twinkle of stars throughout his feathers. Yeah. Again, it would just be the generic. It'd be the 300 for one time, 400 to do it to completion. So, again, you don't have to do that all at once. That's over time. Feel free to do, like, if you do $5 one time, it's $5 towards it. Again, that hasn't changed. I still need Itako to. I'll probably just message Itako and be like, "Hey, you've got the threshold for doing it once. Do you want to wait and get the threshold for completing the game or not?" No, it's more based on the genre of the game, right? That's more the thing. It being a good game, it being a bad game is not so much. There's only ones when they are truly diabolically awful, and everybody knows it. It's like why the Saints Row game was so much. Because everybody knew Saints Row 2023 was going to be diabolically awful. Or was it 2023? When did the god awful Saints Row reboot come out? 2022. Okay. Yeah. Everybody knew that was going to be diabolically bad. And lo and behold, it fucking was. Slowly and deliberately he took to the task of walking, and eventually turned to settle himself upon the porch, resting his hands carefully upon his knees as he sighed. Oh. Call. That sigh filled with the contentment and accomplishment of his long life, spent in service to an idea greater than himself and now rewarded in full. Stretched out before him were the myriad tents and people to work and visit them that marked the 10th anniversary of a festival reborn of his direct efforts. Yeah. Oh, I'm liking this so far. I'm liking how this is going. Soon his companions stirred and fluttered those ebony wings, leaving trails of star-filled sky in the wake of their movement, before regaining a regal composure. Hmm. All right, see. All now gathered. Wait, sorry. Well, Grinus, we were just talking through, and a new story idea hit me. Just a short story, nothing that's like a great number of books, but a quick short story following a simple teen who becomes a shrine tender. He just looks at an old abandoned shrine in his hometown that's dilapidated and falling apart, and he just decides that, it's history. He doesn't believe in the spirits or anything like that. He just believes it's history and it should be taken care of. So he sets up the task of just doing it himself. We distracted him. Now I'll never finish this book. No, that's not true. Again, We have 2 books in first draft state. We got multiple other books that are going along. Some of them are already like several chapters deep. And this is just a short story, so this would be like kind of fun to just get out there. No, he has no special powers or anything like that. He has no he's no special power. He's not an Anvaki. He's not a Vordir. He's not gonna have any like saving the world sort of like adventure or anything. This is just him fixing up an old shrine. And we did the joke because Anti-Boy Scout made a joke, but I thought the joke was too funny. So the name of the book is Journal of a Shrine Tender, and then I put the subtitle as That Time I Cleaned Up a Shrine for Community Service and Got Blessed by the Spirit That Lives There. Just because I thought it's funny. Like, that's not actually going to be used. I just think that would be funny to have as like a subtitle. Oh, yeah. Oh, I need to go flip the stuff in the air fryer. I'll be right back. Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to get this initial thing down so I kind of get a vibe. I kind of know how I want it to go. I want it to be like various periods over his life. And then the ending of it being like literally the twilight of his life. As he's just like enjoying the fruits of his labor. So there's a little bit I've got here. It's been a long journey, old friend? The man's voice was tired, yet filled with warmth, as his eyes remained locked on the townspeople, sharing in merriment and mirth. All now gathered around, be it for their own amusement or to pay homage to the shrine that once more sparkled with beauty amongst their town. I had a little snack while I'm waiting for the stuff in the air fryer. Because I got to cook on this side, then I can take it out. And eat some proper food. Yum. Proper food. Oh yeah. I also finally ran into a public dungeon that I couldn't do all the bosses in ESO. Because the boss mechanics on one of them is a hard stun life suck that goes from 100 to dead in one go, unless it gets interrupted by somebody else. I'm like, what the fuck? How in the fuck am I gonna do this? I'm kind of hoping, maybe, potentially, if I can give, like, if I give my companion the two-handed sword and let them do the strike, maybe it will knock them off. But I have to make sure the companion targets her.
Yeah, it left me thoroughly annoyed. And it's the same thing with the Fungal Grotto 1 when you realize there's a boss fight that's a hard stun. But I can't just give my companion a two-handed thing there because it's 4 entities that he needs to interrupt. And so if my companion was smart enough to go interrupt them, that'd be one thing. They're not smart enough to do that. An idea about where a story where a city had to find a way to make food during a massive siege, and they decided to use demi-planes for farming. That could be interesting. It wouldn't work in my setting, but it could be interesting. I've been watching a new anime. It's very ecchi or ichi. I don't know how you say it properly. But I thought it would be interesting. I was reincarnated as the 7th prince so I can take my time perfecting my magical ability. I didn't realize it was going to be that ecchi, though. Or ichi, however you say it. Right? Oh my god. Boobs. Booba's everywhere. Booba's everywhere. So much booba. Booba overload. Ecchi. So it is ecchi. Okay. The corn has been infected with magic and is now fighting us. No way. The German title for Zelda Ocarina of Time is the silliest fucking thing ever, yet no one ever talks about it. The Legend of Zelda Das Fluten Duten. Very happy to see that the Ocarina of Time remake sticks to its localized title in the German version. Das Fluten Duten Rebooten. Oh my god. That's incredible. Jesus Christ, that title, I know, right? One of these days, I just need to sit down and write out one of my darn story ideas. Again, it sounds like it's being very condescending. Just do it. I know how that sounds. But the biggest hurdle to writing is that initial, like, what words on the page. You can fix shit later. Just start writing. Just start writing. That's literally all it is. People made fun of that remake and Child Link that it goes as some of those depictions of grown-up face with a small body. Oh god, yeah. Yeah, right, even it's just vibes. Because again, the hard part is staring at a blank page and there's nothing there. And you feel like, oh my god, I have to fill this page. Again, if you just start writing, doesn't matter if it's bad, you can fix it later. Just start writing, get your flow going, and just keep going with it. Woof. Woof. Alright, I'm gonna go check on my food, my FUD. See if it's done out of the air fryer. I'm hungry. I'm very hungry. Be right back. Wow. Okay. Alright. You know what? There's one thing I wanted to look at. Alright, there's one thing I wanted to look at. Yeah, here we go. This got revealed. So before I forget, no, stop. Okay. Okay, so there was a new Vampire the Masquerade game that was announced. So yeah, White Wolf, or the Skinwalkers wearing White Wolf's pelt, are really trying to get all of the World of Darkness stuff back into the public consciousness again. Because a lot of people forget that World of Darkness was bigger than Dungeons and Dragons for a long time, and then they fucked it up. They fucked it up hard. So they're really trying. We're getting a Hunter the Reckoning, we're getting a Werewolf the Apocalypse, and we're getting a Vampire the Masquerade game coming. So this was announced a couple days ago. I want to look at it. Well, I'm thinking on it.
That night you died. That night you became one of us. Many were destroyed. You were not. Staked through the heart, buried alive, abandoned in the deepest hollow of the Temple of Eternal Whispers.
CRPG version of it too. So I'm interested, because again, if this is much more like You know what I mean? It is much closer to the tabletop. Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing people said, Disco Elysium style. But it reminds me of, Owlcat, too.
Will you rise as the sword of Cain? Or will you piece together the shattered remains of your humanity?
Wait. Are you Sabat? Hold on. Are you Sabat? Will you piece together... Will you become the sword of Cain? Hold up. Say that again?
Will you rise as the sword of Cain?
Are we actually gonna get a Sabat-focused storyline? Ooh.
Or will you piece together the shattered remains of your humanity?
The sword of Cain falls where it will. The Sabat. That would be... Okay. This very interesting. Very interesting potential here now. Oh, yes. Okay, so... Fly DS and Quali Gaming. Let's check some of their... Histories, shall we? Or is it Flyos? Oh, it's Flyos. That's not a D, that's just very bad kerning. Flyos Games. Discover immersive narrative board games by Flyos. They're a board game publisher. Okay. Oh, and they helped make Werewolf the Apocalypse, the board game version. The Werewolf the Apocalypse Retaliation. Okay. I see. Yep, their first video game foray will be Vampire the Masquerade Eternal Whispers. But they have done Werewolf the Apocalypse and Vampire the Masquerade games before as board games. So that's really fucking neat. Okay. And then Quali. What are your games? I don't care about your game studio partners. Where are your games? Okay, so they made a bunch of mobile games. PC and console games. Town to City, The Precinct, Robo Beat, Void Right. View all PC console games. Let me see all of your stuff. Call of the Elder Gods, Don't Stop, Girly Pop, Ground Zero, Hordes of Hunger, Lost Helden, Robo Beat, The Coin Game. That one, okay, that one at least. I know a bunch of people that have played that one. At least the demo for it, like tons of them. Alright, so not really a proven company, right? Yeah, what if their pals are consultancy groups? Yeah, I know, right? Ugh. But I'm interested, board game developer, right? A board game developer stepping into video games, that's pretty neat. Especially because they're doing it as a CRPG. uh, Morning, Rapar. Morning. But still, the precinct was developed by Fallen Tree Games. Maybe they had assistance in it? Like, I don't know. We'll see. Thus far, the Vampire the Masquerade game is interesting, especially if it's going to be from the Sabbat perspective. Very interesting indeed. Very, very interesting. But yeah, Rapar, we were basically just going through everything. With the story stuff I had written thus far, I had finished chapter 9. And we are now going into chapter 10 rewrite. And I am going into new story. There's a new story we thought of, or at least I thought of, but it was inspired by some of the stuff that people said in chat. And I just like, what if I do a short story, and we're calling it Journal of a Shrine Tender, or I'm calling it Journal of a Shrine Tender. Anti-Boy Scout came up with a joke title for it, and I'm using it as a subtitle because it's funny. That time I cleaned up a shrine for community service and got blessed by the spirit that lives there. Okay, I'm gonna try and eat my food now. Oh. Right, it's just gonna be a one and done sort of story of a teen that sees a rundown shrine in his hometown and decides that, you know, he doesn't believe in the spirits or anything, but it's history, so it should be taken care of. So he starts just doing simple odds and ends, like maybe mowing the lawn, or, you know what I mean, tending to the garden on it. And then once he like cuts back all the overgrowth and everything, he checks on like some of the wood needs replaced. So maybe he saves up a little bit of his allowance and he buys like a board of wood and he goes and replaces one of them, and then another one and another one slowly over time. And eventually he just gets into being where like he decides that he's just going to take care of it full time. So he officially becomes a shrine tender, which is a government position. So he can basically get a paycheck from the government. And he just takes care of the shrine, slowly repairing it over time. And he's getting little, like, gifts and things like that. But he just breaks it off as, like, oh, the townspeople are leaving behind little donations and things, right? So he doesn't associate it directly with, like, the spirit is now slowly rewarding him. And the rewards are getting better over time. He doesn't think of it that way. He just thinks that the townspeople are, like, leaving little trinkets for him and stuff that he can use. Alright, I'll read through what we have thus far for an opening blurb. Because I wanted to get the opening blurb out. Because that like kind of helps cement things to get things started. So I'll read the entire opening blurb we have thus far. A warm breeze swept down through the treetops and cast the robe up from his feet to expose the well-worn sandals beneath. They had experienced much through their long life alongside the man, now made old from time, that took such care of them. Each step he took in opposition to the breeze was one step closer to his ultimate goal, a well-used seat at the edge of the porch with enough shade to be comfortable and enough light for warmth. There, resting beside it, was his lifelong companion, a bird black of coloration with golden eyes and the slight twinkle of stars throughout his feathers. Slowly and deliberately, he took to the task of walking, and eventually turned to settle himself upon the porch, resting his hands carefully upon his knees as he sighed. That sigh filled with the contentment and accomplishment of his long life, spent in service to an idea greater than himself, and now rewarded in full. Stretched out before him were the myriad tents and people to work and visit them, that marked the 10th anniversary of a festival reborn of his direct efforts. Soon his companions stirred and fluttered those ebony wings, leaving trails of star-filled sky in the wake of their movement before regaining a regal composure. It's been a long journey, old friend? The man's voice was tired, yet filled with warmth as his eyes remained locked on the townspeople sharing in merriment and mirth. All now gathered around, be it for their own amusement or to pay homage to the shrine that once more sparkled with beauty amongst their town. So, basically, the thing I want is here at the start is obviously the end goal, the end of his labor, right? Only fortunate there's a bunch of new loading screens in the ESO. I don't think there is. I don't think there's a bunch of new loading screens. I think they took off the cap because there's no new story chapter or anything to focus on. When they were doing story chapters, the loading screens would be about the story chapter. Now they've just taken that limiter off. So no, I don't think so. I don't think there's a bunch of new ones. I haven't seen a new one. Well, actually, no. I've seen one new one, and that's it. And that's the only one I know of. And it's not the werewolf one. We talked about it. I talked about it with Grynus on the Discord. That's not new. That's been there. That's been there since update 19. That is not new. It was just rare. Yeah, again, because if it's story chapter, they'll focus on stuff like that's associated with the current chapter. So you don't have a lot of time. Like, it's rare to see Morrowind's loading screen now, because Morrowind has been not the main chapter for a long, long time. All right. Woofda. Nom 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 nom. Nom 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 nom. No, nope, they don't need to be that. Once you install them, they're good to go. You need to make sure you have the dependencies though. It won't automatically install all the dependencies, so you gotta find the dependencies you need. Oh my goodness sakes. Okay. Only one can't be found for lost treasure? That shouldn't be possible, because I did lost treasure through Minion. So I know all of them can be found. That's all I use. Oh, excuse me. Okay. Yeah, put that aside now. Right. Right. Okay. All right, Chad. You know what? I think that's where I'll leave you with today. Yeah. Yeah. I'll go on my walkies a little early today. So yeah. That's what I'm gonna do. All right. Remember, for Saturday, on Saturday Showtime, we're gonna be watching a long movie. We're gonna watch Brotherhood of the Wolf. I've never seen it before. I want to see it. We're gonna watch it. But prepare yourself. It's a long haul. So, I think 2.5 hours is what was said. But yeah, we are absolutely watching it. In the meantime, though, chat, hopefully you guys take care. Have a fantastic day. Stay safe and healthy. Get fit, get ripped, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to talk about Iron Lung. Tomorrow we're going to talk about Iron Lung 100%. The good, the bad, all of it. Again, there's not a lot of bad to say about it. But yeah. In the meantime, bye-bye, everybody. Yeah. Yeah.